Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
So a ceasefire was announced and promptly violated by Pakistan. This morning too, they raised tensions by attacking India, and they did it less than 12 hours after the IMF cleared a new loan for them. $2.3 billion in funding for Pakistan. That's what the IMF agreed to, and in less than 12 hours, Pakistan launched another attack on India. The sequence was hard to ignore. Was Pakistan just waiting for the money before it acted? The IMF board approved 2 tranches for Islamabad. One is a $1 billion loan, which is part of the current bailout, the 24th debt relief package given to Pakistan. That's right, they've got 24 bailouts, which is the highest number for any country ever. 24 IMF bailouts for Pakistan, and even that is proving to be insufficient for them. So the IMF has approved a second loan. This one is worth $1.3 billion. It is under the IMF's Resilience and Sustainability Program. Now, India raised concerns at yesterday's meeting, and then it abstained. It issued a formal statement saying that Pakistan's track record is poor. India warned of the risks of repeated bailouts and questioned how IMF funds were being used by Pakistan. India called Pakistan a prolonged borrower. And despite all of this, upwards of $2 billion have been approved for Pakistan. But why did India abstain? Why did India not vote against this move? Because that's not a provision. The IMF does not allow a formal no vote. Members can only vote yes or they can abstain. And India abstained. But one country had the power to stop this bailout, and that was the United States. It remains the IMF's most powerful and influential player. The US controls around 16% of the IMF's voting power. I'll tell you how. At the International Monetary Fund, control is tied to money, very openly. Usually control is tied to money, but here it's very, very clear and transparent. The more money a country contributes to the IMF, the more voting power it gets. Now, the US contributes over $100 billion to the IMF. It is the biggest funder of this agency. This gives America a de facto veto. No other country comes close to the US, not China, not Germany, or any other nation from the developed world. No other country can block loans on its own. Even if a group of leaders decide to gang up, they won't be able to get more votes than the US. Let me give you some perspective. Japan has just a little over 6% of the vote. China has 6.08%. India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Sri Lanka have 3.05% of the votes combined. The United States alone has more than 16%. So America could have blocked this bailout. It did not. And that is how Pakistan's loan extension went through. The IMF's decision is being widely condemned, of course. The Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir has spoken. That's Omar Abdullah. He asked, how can global powers talk de-escalation while the IMF funds Pakistan's war effort? Abdullah voiced what many were thinking, that the IMF is indirectly paying for this escalation. The International Monetary Fund is bankrolling Pakistan's military offensive and terrorist factories. And this is a matter of fact. Pakistan's army plays an outsized role in its economy, even under a so-called civilian government. The army controls land, industries, and investment councils. It owns large business ventures. It shapes financial decisions. The military runs Pakistan's biggest conglomerate. And we have numbers. In last year's budget, they allocated over 2.13 trillion Pakistani rupees to defense. That's more than $7 billion US. It was a 14% jump from the previous year. Meanwhile, the education budget in Pakistan is not even 2% of their GDP. Healthcare gets less than 1%. IMF officials have pointed this out. They have pushed for cuts in military spending before. Such calls were made as recently as 2023, but to no avail. Nothing came of it. Because the army doesn't just take from the budget, it profits from it. The military in Pakistan owns 12% of the country's land. It runs real estate ventures like the Defense Housing Authority. These projects benefit from public infrastructure. They are often funded through international loans like the ones cleared last night. So when Pakistan fires missiles hours after getting IMF money, it is important to ask this question. Why is the International Monetary Fund giving blank checks to a terror state? Where is this money going? Who is really in control? And how many times will the world ignore this pattern? The IMF and its top contributors like the United States need to wake up to Pakistan's reality, go beyond the spreadsheets, demand accountability, because when funding flows without scrutiny, conflict follows. The world cannot fund peace on paper while war plays out on the ground. Stability does not come from bailouts alone, especially not when missiles follow the money.